We're now going to look at feed mixing options that can be utilized inside of the SheepBytes program. We did create this ration for early lactation. It's not our first ration, so we're going to go back and save this now, and we will simply call it second ration. And in order to save that, we again go to the file box, save as, and we will call this second ration. And save for future use. There it is, shows up on our rations list as second ration. We want to open that ration. So we've got three ingredients. We've got a forage that's likely fed separately from, in this case, the grain and the supplement. Perhaps the forage is fed in a round bale feeder. But we do want to mix our barley grain and our supplement together. We know we're feeding 1.5 pounds of barley grain and 0.3 pounds per head per day of XYZ supplement. We can create a mix of those two feeds simply by clicking on each one, leaving a check mark there, and going up to this button here called Create a Mix. We will call this Grain Mix number 1. It shows us the total amount as fed per U. A batch size, this is how many pounds we want to mix together. The default there is a ton. Let's say that we only want to mix 1,000 pounds at a time. So it shows us our two ingredients here. This table also shows us the percent as fed. So it's 83.3% barley grain and 16.7% supplement. It only varies a slight amount when you go to a dry matter basis because both of these feeds are very similar in terms of dry matter. We click on the save, and we're back now to our rations page, and instead of having any barley grain and supplement in the ration, we now have something called grain mix number 1 at 1.8 pounds per head per day. So a simple way for you to put your two feeds together, or more feeds if you have them, into a grain mix. If something looks a little awry from that grain mix, you don't want to feed it, you're going to change ingredients, you simply click on that box to the left there and go up here, scroll over to Uncreate Mix button. You click on that. It asks you if you're sure you want to uncreate the mix, and in this case we say yes. And OK. And there we've got grain mix number 1 has been removed, it's gone, and we're back to the barley grain and the XYZ supplement. So a nice handy little way to add mixes to your feed. Let's say that you wanted to mix all three ingredients together. Well, we don't often mix grain with hay. Let's take the alfalfa hay out of there by removing the feed. We'll say yes. And let's say instead this person had alfalfa silage. We'll add the alfalfa silage in from the feed table, go back to the ration, and now we've got barley grain, XYZ supplement, and we have to figure out how much alfalfa silage we want to put in that ration. In this case, I think we'll probably put in about, let's say, 14 pounds as a starter, as a guesstimate, and see what that does. That's a little bit too much. You can see we're red on the amount of dry matter. Cut that back by a couple of pounds. We're still probably a little bit high. So that's what we say by the trial and error method. There we're very close to the ration that we had before in terms of dry matter supplied. Instead of 5.5 pounds of hay, we've now got 11 pounds of silage. Now, if we want to mix all three of these ingredients together in a feed mix, again, it's simply by clicking on each one of them and creating the mix. In this case, we might want to call that TMR number 1. And maybe the batch size in our mixer is 5,000 pounds. Oop, 5,000. This tells us then what the adds-fed ratios are. 85.9% silage, 2.3% supplement, and 11.7%. Now there is a way we will talk about later to get these into a batch mix that you might find useful, but for now we'll stop here, save that, and there's the total mixed ration that we would have available to us. So that's the feed mixes feature on SheepBytes.